It was late August when Jenna moved into Elmwood Hall, the oldest dormitory on campus. A senior at the university, she had chosen Elmwood for its charm and proximity to her classes. The building had a reputation for being haunted, but Jenna dismissed the stories as mere campus legends. Her room, tucked away in a quiet corner of the third floor, was spacious and filled with antique furniture. The creaky floorboards and old-fashioned decor added to its eerie charm. On her first night, she unpacked her belongings and settled in, eager to start the new semester. As she lay in bed, Jenna heard faint whispers coming from the hallway. She sat up, straining to hear. The whispers grew louder, then abruptly stopped. She brushed it off as the sounds of other students settling in and went to sleep. The next morning, she mentioned the whispers to her roommate, Megan. Megan laughed. "Elmwood is old and noisy. You'll get used to it." Days turned into weeks, and Jenna indeed grew accustomed to the sounds of the old building. However, the whispers persisted, always around midnight. They seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once, chilling her to the bone. One evening, Jenna decided to study late in the library. As she returned to Elmwood Hall, she saw a figure standing in her window. She blinked, and the figure was gone. Shaking off the unease, she climbed the stairs to her room. Inside, Megan was fast asleep. Jenna checked the window, but it was locked from the inside. Trying to dismiss what she saw, she crawled into bed, but sleep was elusive. The following day, Jenna overheard a group of students discussing the ghost of Elmwood Hall. According to legend, a student named Evelyn had died in the dormitory decades ago under mysterious circumstances. Her spirit, they said, roamed the halls, whispering secrets and appearing in windows. Determined to uncover the truth, Jenna dove into researching the history of Elmwood Hall. She discovered that Evelyn was a brilliant but troubled student who had mysteriously vanished in 1962. Her disappearance was never solved, and rumors of her ghost had persisted ever since. One night, Jenna decided to confront the whispers. Armed with a flashlight and a sense of resolve, she ventured into the hallway at midnight. The whispers began, soft and indistinct. She followed the sound to the end of the corridor, where an old, unused door stood slightly ajar. She pushed the door open, revealing a small, dusty room filled with forgotten furniture and old books. In the center of the room was a desk, and on it, an old diary. Jenna opened the diary and began to read. The diary belonged to Evelyn. It chronicled her struggles, fears, and the final, chilling entry. August 12th, 1962. I can no longer endure the whispers. They call to me, night after night, revealing secrets too dark to bear. I fear I am losing my mind. Tonight I will confront them. If I do not return, let this be my testament. As Jenna finished reading, the temperature in the room dropped suddenly. She heard a faint, sorrowful whisper behind her. "Help me." Jenna turned to see a translucent figure of a young woman standing in the doorway. It was Evelyn. Her eyes were filled with a deep sadness, and she seemed to be pleading for help. Gathering her courage, Jenna spoke. "Evelyn, how can I help you?" The ghostly figure pointed to the diary. Jenna understood. Evelyn wanted her story to be known, her disappearance explained. She spent the next few days meticulously documenting Evelyn's life and mysterious disappearance, sharing the information with the university. Her efforts paid off. With the newfound evidence, the university reopened the investigation into Evelyn's case. Old witnesses came forward, and eventually it was discovered that Evelyn had been the victim of foul play by a jealous classmate. The classmate, now an elderly person, confessed to the crime, bringing closure to the decades-old mystery. With Evelyn's story finally told, the whispers ceased, and the atmosphere in Elmwood Hall lightened. Jenna could feel a sense of peace in the building that hadn't been there before. She knew that Evelyn's spirit had found rest. As she continued her studies, Jenna often thought of Evelyn and the connection they had shared. She had not only solved a mystery, but had also helped a lost soul find peace. Elmwood Hall remained an old, creaky building, but to Jenna, it was no longer just a dormitory. It was a place where history and the supernatural intertwined, forever leaving its mark on her.
Freshman year at college was supposed to be exciting, full of new experiences and friends. For Rachel, it started that way. She was assigned to a small but cozy dorm room in Adams Hall, a building with a long history. Her roommate, Lily, was friendly, and they hit it off immediately. The first few weeks were a blur of classes, social events, and late-night study sessions. Rachel loved the hustle and bustle of campus life, but soon she began to notice odd things happening in their room. It started with small, inexplicable occurrences. Books would move from one side of the desk to the other. The closet door would be open in the morning, even though Rachel distinctly remembered closing it the night before. Lily laughed it off, joking that the dorm was haunted. One evening, Rachel returned to the room to find Lily sitting on her bed, staring blankly at the wall. "Lily, you okay?" Rachel asked, concerned. Lily snapped out of her trance and shook her head. "Yeah, just tired, I guess." But Rachel knew something was off. Lily became more withdrawn, often staring into space and talking less. One night, Rachel woke up to find Lily standing by the window, whispering to someone who wasn't there. "Lily?" Rachel called softly. Lily turned, her eyes wide and vacant. "He says he wants to come in." Chills ran down Rachel's spine. "Who?" Lily blinked, then shook her head as if waking from a dream. I don't know. Sorry, I must have been sleepwalking." The next day, Rachel did some digging. She learned that Adams Hall had a dark past. Decades ago, a student named David had died by suicide in the very room Rachel and Lily now shared. Since then, there had been numerous reports of strange occurrences, especially involving the occupants of that particular room. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Rachel decided to stay up that night and keep an eye on Lily. Sure enough, around midnight, Lily sat up in bed, her eyes glassy. She got up and walked to the window, whispering. Rachel grabbed her phone and started recording. "Lily, who are you talking to?" "He wants to come in," Lily repeated, her voice eerily calm. "Who wants to come in?" "The boy, David." Rachel's blood ran cold. She approached Lily, gently touching her shoulder. "Lily, wake up." Lily blinked and looked around, confused. What happened?" Rachel showed her the video. Lily was horrified. "I don't remember any of that." The two girls decided to seek help. They contacted the campus counselor, who referred them to a local paranormal expert. The expert, an elderly woman named Mrs. Thompson, agreed to come to the dorm. Mrs. Thompson conducted a thorough investigation of the room. She confirmed what Rachel had feared. David's spirit was trapped, seeking closure. "David is drawn to Lily because she is sensitive to the spirit world," Mrs. Thompson explained. "He doesn't mean harm, but he is lost and confused." Mrs. Thompson suggested a cleansing ritual to help David move on. That night, they followed her instructions, lighting candles and burning sage. They recited a prayer for David, asking him to find peace. As they performed the ritual, the room grew colder, and they could hear faint sobbing. Rachel and Lily held hands, their voices steady despite their fear. "David, you are free to go," Mrs. Thompson said softly. "Find peace." The temperature in the room gradually returned to normal, and the sobbing faded away. They completed the ritual, feeling a sense of relief. From that night on, the strange occurrences stopped. Lily's behavior returned to normal, and the atmosphere in the room lightened. Rachel and Lily felt a deep bond, having faced the supernatural together. They never forgot David and hoped he had found the peace he sought. The experience left them with a greater appreciation for the mysteries of the world, and a lasting friendship forged in the face of the unknown.
When Samantha enrolled at Bradford University, she was eager to dive into her studies and make the most of her college experience. The campus was renowned for its beautiful architecture and rich history, and she felt privileged to be a part of it. During her first week, she heard whispers about a mysterious, abandoned tower on the far side of the campus. The tower, known as Morgan Tower, was off-limits to students. It had been locked up for decades after a tragic incident involving a professor and his research assistant. Intrigued by the stories, Samantha decided to investigate. On a crisp autumn afternoon, she ventured to the edge of the campus where Morgan Tower loomed. The structure was imposing, with ivy crawling up its stone walls and broken windows that hinted at a long-forgotten past. Samantha found a way to slip through a gap in the fence and approached the tower cautiously. The heavy wooden door was secured with a rusty padlock. Determined to get inside, Samantha searched the surrounding area and found an old key hidden under a loose stone nearby. Her heart pounded with excitement as she unlocked the door and stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, and the interior was dimly lit by narrow, high windows. Samantha pulled out her flashlight and began to explore. The ground floor was cluttered with old furniture and boxes filled with papers and books. As she sifted through the debris, she found a worn leather journal that piqued her interest. The journal belonged to Professor Morgan, the tower's namesake. He had been a brilliant but eccentric scientist who was obsessed with unlocking the secrets of the human mind. According to the journal, he conducted experiments in the tower, aiming to tap into latent psychic abilities. His assistant, Amelia, had been his most promising subject. As Samantha read on, she learned that the experiments had taken a dark turn. The final entries in the journal detailed a series of disturbing events. Professor Morgan wrote about strange occurrences, objects moving on their own, disembodied voices, and Amelia exhibiting increasingly erratic behavior. The last entry was particularly chilling. March 14, 1928. Amelia has become something else entirely. Her powers have grown beyond my control. She is no longer the person I knew. Tonight, I will attempt to contain her, but I fear it may be too late. Samantha's curiosity turned to apprehension as she continued to explore the tower. She climbed the spiral staircase to the second floor, where she found a laboratory filled with archaic equipment and dusty glass containers. The walls were lined with chalkboards covered in complex equations and diagrams. In the center of the room was a large iron cage, its door hanging open. Samantha shuddered, imagining what might have been contained within. She noticed a faint light coming from a small door at the back of the room and decided to investigate. The door led to a narrow staircase that spiraled upward. As she ascended, she felt a growing sense of unease. At the top of the stairs, she found herself in a circular room with high, arched windows. In the center of the room was an old wooden desk, and behind it, a large portrait of Professor Morgan. Samantha approached the desk and saw another journal, this one belonging to Amelia. She opened it and began to read. Amelia's entries were frantic and filled with fear. She wrote about the experiments and how they had awakened something dark within her. She described feeling trapped in her own mind, unable to control the malevolent force that had taken over. The final entry was a desperate plea. March 15th, 1928. If anyone finds this, please know that I am sorry. I cannot control what I have become. Professor Morgan tried to help, but I fear he has paid the ultimate price. I am a danger to everyone. Please do not let me out. As Samantha finished reading, she heard a faint whisper behind her. She turned and saw the ghostly figure of a young woman standing by the window. It was Amelia. Her eyes were filled with sorrow and fear. "Please," Amelia whispered, "help me." Samantha felt a surge of compassion for the tormented spirit. "How can I help you?" she asked. Amelia pointed to the portrait of Professor Morgan. Samantha examined the painting and noticed that the eyes seemed to follow her.
She reached out and pressed on one of the eyes, and a hidden compartment behind the portrait clicked open. Inside the compartment was a small, ornate box. Samantha opened it to find a collection of old keys and a letter from Professor Morgan. The letter explained that he had created a device to contain Amelia's powers, but he had never had the chance to use it. The keys were to different parts of the tower, where he had hidden components of the device. Determined to help Amelia find peace, Samantha set out to find the components. She spent the next several hours exploring the tower, unlocking hidden rooms and solving puzzles that Professor Morgan had designed to protect the device. Each component she found seemed to resonate with a strange energy. Finally, she assembled the device in the laboratory. It was a complex contraption of wires, crystals, and metal plates. Following the instructions in the letter, she activated the device. A bright light filled the room, and Samantha felt a powerful force emanating from the cage. Amelia's spirit appeared, drawn to the device. She looked at Samantha with gratitude and sorrow. "Thank you," she whispered. "I can finally be free." The light intensified, and Amelia's spirit began to dissolve, leaving behind a sense of peace. The tower, once filled with darkness and fear, now felt lighter. Samantha knew that Amelia was finally at rest. With her task complete, Samantha returned to her dorm, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. She had uncovered a piece of the university's hidden history and brought closure to a tragic story. From that day on, she was known as the student who had braved the forgotten tower and freed the spirit trapped within. And while the stories of Morgan Tower's haunting persisted, they were now told with a sense of reverence for the bravery of Samantha and the tragic fate of Amelia and Professor Morgan. The tower remained off limits, but it was no longer a place of fear. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of compassion.